So now we've got rainbow-colored fentanyl powder that resembles cereal and or candy is seized in Multnomah County in Oregon, and a public safety warning has been issued. Now, they found this rainbow-colored fentanyl in other areas of the country as well. California, I think. We're going to talk about it. And why is this so dangerous? It looks like candy or cereal. Ah, that looks good. This isn't the first time that drug manufacturers, whatever you want to call them, have done this. I understand that in the late 90s, this was done with meth. All right, let's get into it. Let's see what we've got going on. Is this going to be the new trend that's just going to rip through drug-addicted segments of society? I'm not sure. Doesn't sound good, though. All right. Multnomah County Sheriff's deputies seized about 4 ounces of multicolored fentanyl powder from a safe in a Northeast Portland apartment last week, prompting a public safety warning Tuesday that the potentially deadly rainbow-colored chunks of powder can easily be mistaken by children for candy. They look like little chunks. They look like almost starburst chunks of like a Sour Patch candy. You know, that kind of candy that's got the sugar coating on the outside that's both sweet and sour. Delicious. Kids, fentanyl. Yeah, no go. But you can understand how that would happen, right? Oh, let's just eat this piece of candy. And kid's dead. Terrible. Pressed powder fentanyl is significantly more potent than pressed pills containing fentanyl because it's in a purer form, Sheriff Sergeant Matt Ferguson said. The powder started showing up in greater quantities in the region this year, and I've been hearing about this. Just, you know, those little news stories where you're like, okay, all right, that's a one-off. All right, that's a one-off. And then when a police officer sends you the story, you're like, oh, okay, yep, here's the real deal. Let's go. And now the dyed rainbow powder with the consistency of colored chalk is popping up, said Ferguson and Chris Gibson, director of the Oregon-Idaho High-Intensity Drug Trafficking Area. That is an actual entity. Oregon-Idaho High-Intensity Drug Trafficking Area. Gibson said the colors may be a marketing thing to show where it's coming from, with makers using the colors to mark their products. They don't care if kids eat them. They could care less. They are so far down the road by that time when it hits the general population. Yeah, these drug dealers, these drug makers. I don't know if you've seen, you probably haven't. Why would you? You've seen fentanyl in the fake M30s? They're just little blue pills. They look like 𝐏𝐞𝐸, pills. They look like a blue Advil, but they're not. And you crunch them up and you use one of those little cruncher things. I don't know what they're called in cooking, that you do with like herbs and spices and stuff. Just really crunch it up, make it into a powdery substance, and then mash it up, I guess is what you'd say. And then you place it on a piece of tin foil and you smoke it with the crack pipe. Not good. We believe this is going to be the new trend seen on the streets of Portland, he said. Well, that's something to look forward to. Rainbow-colored fentanyl has been detected in California and appears to be traveling up the West Coast from Mexico for distribution, Ferguson said. Authorities in Monterey, California, for example, announced last month that they had arrested 2 people with what they described as rainbow fentanyl that resembled Lucky Charms cereal. Did you have Lucky Charms as a kid? I did every now and then, but I was more of a Wheaties guy. Lucky Charms, they just didn't really fill you up. They gave you a great sugar rush, no doubt about that. And they were cool to see them all just floating in the milk, right? And then the milk turned kind of a brown color. But Lucky Charms, not a lot of nutritional content there. And when you've got drugs that are rainbow colored that look like Lucky Charms, that's not going to end well, is it? No, some poor kid is just going to think, you hear about that with weed chocolate every now and then. You've got edibles that are in the form of chocolate. Some poor kid gets a hold of them and the parents are just, they're Fortunately, I don't think you can die from a weed overdose. Has anybody ever died from a weed overdose? Make you pretty sick, make you pretty high, might slow you down a little bit, but it's not going to kill you instantly like a, Lucky Charm sized piece of fentanyl. Non-medical grade fentanyl has overtaken heroin and methamphetamine as the number one threat in the region. And this really, I started noticing this in 2018 and 2019. Things started to change. Like here in Seattle, and I know it changed in Portland as well. Things started to change. You're like, where is this stuff coming from? People were going out and buying pill presses because you could make a few thousand pills. And at that time, I think in 2019, they were $40 or $50 a pill. I don't know what they're at now, but are they $5 a pill, $10 a pill? So non-medical grade fentanyl has overtaken heroin and methamphetamine as the number one threat in the region, causing a rise in overdose deaths. We all know that. It's according to the Oregon-Idaho high-intensity drug trafficking area threat assessment. In the Portland metro area, fentanyl typically has been found pressed into counterfeit prescription pills resembling M30 oxycodone tablets, or so-called blues. That's what you always see. That's what you always see on the busts, right? You got a big table. You're always going to have in the police bus, you're always going to have some cash, some cold hard cash. You're going to have a gun or two, maybe a ghost gun. You're going to have a bunch of paraphernalia, and you're going to have just, crap ton of pills or whatever it is that was and maybe some heroin, maybe a little bit of ecstasy and some weed thrown in there. Cause drug dealers, they're running a business. They got to have diversity. Yeah. Oh, you don't want that? How about this? But local police in the last month have noticed people seeking powdered forms of fentanyl, Ferguson said. Well, why would you want powdered forms of fentanyl instead of pills pressed into pill form by somebody else? Well, users are building such a tolerance to the counterfeit M30 pills, he said. They're saying they're using 20 pills a day, and it's just not working for them. They're chasing the dragon, aren't they? Chasing that dragon. Never going to catch it. Not even by the tail. Just always looking for that high. It's just not working for them. So dealers are requesting pure fentanyl powder now. Now, logic this out, right? So if the M30 pills, which contain a very small portion of fentanyl powder, are killing people, what's this stuff going to do? I mean, it can't be good, right? I mean, that's why you've got an emergency notice. Hey, you got stuff that's rainbow colored that looks like candy and or potentially Lucky Charms. They're magically delicious. Remember that marketing? All that marketing on Saturday morning. Saturday morning used to be the epic morning for cartoons. My brother would get up so early, like he'd get up at like 5 or 6 and we'd watch cartoons all morning. But I think we had to have the TV off by like 9 o'clock or something. My parents were just like, yeah, you guys got to go out and do something. You can't sit there and watch TV all day. Yeah, but I'm going to miss Superman. Whatever it was I watched. Scooby-Doo, I watched a lot of Scooby-Doo because that, Scooby-Doo did work. Velma and Louise, or whatever they were, they always caught the bad guy at the end, right? They always caught the bad guy in the end. They always drove around in that really cool van. Julie Dodge, Multnomah County's interim director of behavioral health, said it's not uncommon for drug forms to shift over time because people build up a tolerance and they're like, yeah, it's just not doing it for me anymore. Wild, right? So let's move on to another drug, more dangerous. That's why it's important, she said, to share the message. We take a risk at any time we take a substance, and when it's not known who made it or where it came from, let's just take a little run at this. A lot of governmental entities, and even in this article at the bottom, they'll state, hey, in order to be safe, you should get a fentanyl test strip and just see what percentage fentanyl is. Is it pure? Is it, is this stuff good for you? How about you just don't do it? It's not going to end well. It's not going to end well. Fentanyl, have you seen these people? I mean, I don't know if it's the fentanyl or I don't know if it's the new meth. But a lot of these folks on the street, I mean, I've seen it here in Bellevue, which is, we don't have a lot of that, but the stuff that we see, I saw a guy at the Jack in the Box. Was it Jack? Yeah, it was the Jack in the Box drive-through. Just wander out into traffic, throw his drink that he just got down on the ground. Clearly, he's just out of his mind. It's making these people nutso, just nutso. And that's why you've got so many folks committing crimes. They're out of their mind already. You throw a bunch of drugs on it because they're trying to self-medicate, and whammy. And now you've got these additional types of forms of powdered fentanyl coming on the market. It's an adaptation to a demand. It's pretty straightforward. You got supply and demand. So far this year, about 35 kilograms, 35 keys of powdered fentanyl have been seized by regional narcotics enforcement officers compared to 5 keys seized by the regional task force all of last year. All right. So is this an ongoing trend? I mean, it doesn't sound like it's a massive trend yet, but it's a precursor or it's an indication of what might be coming. And that is not good. I remember when I first started reading about fentanyl and I was like, what is that? Do we even need a new drug? I thought there was plenty out there that, got people pretty high. And then they're like, oh no, it's cheaper and it's more effective. Yeah. And it kills you. You take a few grains too many, it kills you. Not good stuff. Don't do drugs. Drugs are bad. The regional task force also has seized more counterfeit pills laced with fentanyl so far this year, he said. In Oregon, there were 656 drug overdose deaths from January to October 2021, far higher than the total of 472 in 2020. So, I mean, it's exponentially. It's like doubling. The number of drug overdose deaths in Oregon is literally doubling. Is that going to go from 656 to 1,350? I don't know. It's not a good extrapolation, is it? It's not the direction you want to go, you want to see. So most fentanyl doses in the state are due to the combined effects of fentanyl taken with another drug at the same time. Well, speedball action there, right? So, not good. Sheriff's deputies during last Thursday's search warrant also seized. All right, there we go. Here's the list. Here's the Christmas list. You got a little body armor. You got 9 guns, including some that were stolen or modified. All right. Not shocking. As well as 800 pills laced with fentanyl, according to Ferguson. He said the investigation is continuing into the source of the drugs. Where are they coming from? Mexico. China, Mexico, up to the West Coast. Signs of overdose include pale or clammy skin. Okay, we go into this, then we go into naloxone, which is, it's like that drug you saw in Pulp Fiction where Eric Stoltz had to basically impale, who was that? I forget the actress's name. Yeah, had to impale her, just that scene. And then she woke up and went, yeah, not good. I mean, it literally goes down that way sometimes. Usually the people just regain their pulse. So anyone who uses illicit drugs can get free fentanyl test strips and naloxone kits through the Multnomah County harm reduction. Harm reduction. Man, you're encouraging people to do stuff, to take drugs, and it's called harm reduction. You're handing out kits that bring you back from being dead or an overdose. It's wild stuff, isn't it? It's wild stuff. Kids, stay away from drugs. Not good for you. It's just not gonna get you where you want to go. And we all know this as adults. I mean, most adults do anyway. Most people tuning into this channel are just more conservative. And a lot of you guys are, my age, if not older. And these drugs coming on, you're just like, what? What are we even doing? Fentanyl? What is that? It just wasn't a thing before, was it? Meth. Meth was always something that, bikers dealt in, right? Heroin was just, I got a little black tar heroin. Now, wasn't that what an Easy Rider, wasn't that what they were smuggling in the gas tank? I think it was. I can't remember what it exactly was. Did we ever even know what it was? But that was an epic movie. And then they just got mowed down at the end by some rednecks. Wild movie. It was just, that was a trippy movie. Like riding around on a motorcycle, and then you had some famous actors in there, right? Famous actors. All right. That's it for me on this one. But yeah, you got rainbow-colored fentanyl that resembles candy and or Lucky Charms cereal. Ugh, what are we even doing? All right. Thanks for being here. We'll catch up soon on the next one. Talk then. Bye for now.